Hi everybody, and welcome back to video 3 of the Life is Better in Full Bloom pillow, the Kimberbell 22-inch pillow. And so in this video we're going to do 3 more blocks. We're going to do the butterfly block, the birdhouse block, and the pinwheels block. So these have been really fun and they turn out so cute. So I did want to tell you that in the last video, I did miss one instruction and I didn't realize, and I don't think it really mattered, but they said in the mushroom block that you were supposed to put the shape flex on the back of these stems. And, honestly, I don't think it made a difference if it was on there or not. I think this one here that we're going to do, the butterfly, I did put it on, and I'll show you in the picture why. But just be aware that they are putting some of the shape flex on some of the back of the applique pieces. And I think the reason they're doing it on the butterfly is there are quite a few stitches, and there appears that it's possibly part of it is done in raw edge. So we'll take a look at it as we get going here. But I just wanted to mention that from the last video, that they did say to put shape flex on the back of these 2 little stems here. And I didn't have any trouble. As you can see, it doesn't look wrinkly or anything. So, okay. All right, so we're going to get started doing 3 more blocks. These are so cute. Now, I have to say, I didn't have the exact fabric that they called for in this block. So this was the blue that they put on the back of the large part of the wings of the little butterfly. And I didn't have the right color to go with this for the top. So I have another fabric here. So we're going to try this and see what it looks like. Mine's going to have a little bit more print on the top because these all matched really nicely. And then I have this kind of the blue green on the bottom. So I thought those looked nice together. And then this is going to be his body. So hopefully he's not too busy, but this is what I had to make my butterfly out of. So I think the actual one that they used was this one and this one. And then there's another bluer floral pattern that goes with this, but I didn't happen to have that. So we're going to try it with these other ones and see what happens. So we may have a pretty psychedelic looking butterfly here, but I think it'll be fine. Okay. So we have the background piece for our butterfly, and then this is going to be his top wings. This is going to be the bottom wings, and then this is going to be, there's just like a little inset in here. And there won't be much of this showing, so I thought it might still be okay. And then this is his body, okay? And they did ask you to put on the wrong side of all the fabric. So the shape flex, I put it on the back of all of these. And like I said, there appears to be quite a bit of stitching on these, so I did do that. And then this piece is so light colored, you could see the little bugs and stuff through the fabric. So the rest of them probably would have been dark enough for not to have that bleed through, but I think they did that because there's quite a bit of stitching, especially on the top wings. Okay, so let's get started with this. We're going to start out with our quilting, of course. And give me a second here. I forgot to grab my chunk of batting. It's right behind me. I always forget something when I get ready for these videos. Okay, got my batting. So I have my chunk of batting. We're going to go over here and we're going to grab our design. So this one says to use the the block by block quilting is going to be spring 2 again, and this is a 4x4 block. So I put this in my 5x7 hoop, and I have my no-show mesh in my hoop already. All right, so let's go get our quilting design spring 2, and someplace in here. I like to have all the designs on here, but there's getting to be quite a lot. And I have to scroll down a lot. Okay, here we go. And block by block. And we're going to do the 4x4. So we need the 4x4. Here it is, right here, 4x4. Okay, we're going to bring that one in first. That's the one that has the little butterfly and stuff on it. We're going to set that one, and then we're going to bring in the actual butterfly design. So I'm going to hit add down here. So give me a second here. Okay, and go back to my stick. Life is Better in Full Bloom. And here's the little butterfly. So we're going to grab our little butterfly. And this one says to align the block embroidery file with the quilting design file so that they're both are centered. So we're just going to leave it in the center. They come in automatically centered on the Brother and Baby Lock machines. And we're going to hit embroidery. Okay, so now we're ready to do our quilting first, of course. And I'll tell you the colors that we're going to be using as I go along. Now remember, I did choose colors to match the fabrics I had. So you may need to slightly alter your blues or maybe your yellows or pinks to accommodate your fabrics. But this gave you an idea of what colors I used together. So I have, like I said, I cut this out of my stash and I didn't have the exact colors that they had. All right, so we're going to put white thread in the needle, just my white embroidery thread. And I'm going to put, I put in my pre-wound bobbin with just the white bobbin thread in it. And the first step, as always, for our quilting is going to be the placement line for the batting. So let me get my pet fabrics out of here. Get a hold of my batting. And then we'll get started on the last batch of blocks. Gosh, this is the last 3, everybody. This will be 8, 9, and 10, and then we will go on to the flanges. And we're going to do those little leaves too this time. So, all right. So we're going to lay our batting down and tack this down. Got all kinds of thread on it. I need to vacuum around my sewing machine again. I get lots of threads around me because I trim and everything lands on the floor, it seems like. Okay, goes around it twice. And then we're going to trim our batting. So here, I need to position my camera a little bit so I can get my arm in here. All right, so we'll get our batting trimmed. Like I said in the last 2 videos, I don't cut my batting pieces. I just use chunks. So if you have like scrap batting sitting around, it's so much faster than to have to cut that too, and then you still got to trim it. So even if you cut it, you know, down to the size they say. Now the sizes for the batting and everything are in the quilting instructions, so you would have to print off those pages as well. And it tells you what size to cut everything for the sizes that you're doing. So I usually just use the scraps of batting. Okay, so we're going to do the third step, which is going to be our placement line for the fabric. Got to get my piece of fabric. I thought this was cute fabric. This was one of the few that I had to go buy because I just didn't have much for yellow. I don't know why. I love yellow, but I didn't have much yellow fabric, and so this was very cute. It had the little ladybugs on it. Got stuff in my hoop. So this was, I think I got this at Joann's. This was, it was the white with the little ladybugs and the little bees on it. I thought it was cute. All right, so we're going to get this centered in the hoop here over our batting, and then, of course, step 4 will be the tack down line for the fabric. Sure it doesn't scoot. This one's just pretty much basic applique. There's quite a lot of sewing on it. Looks like there's quite a lot of decorative stitching. So, and then step 5 will be our quilting. So we're going to quilt this, and then we'll start the applique. So hopefully my colors will work out. We'll see how it goes. I was hoping I could find another blue that would match that better, but I just didn't have one. So we're going to quilt this, and then we'll be back in a moment to start the applique. Okay, we're done with the quilting. It's such a cute quilting pattern. This one has the little daisies on it, and you can really see with this batting. I just love this batting, so you can see the, you know, you can really see the pattern. Even though it's in white, you can really still see it. So, okay, so the first step then in the butterfly, get my fabrics over here ready. Oh, it's going to be the antenna. And it says to do it in the lighter gray, but my fabric's a little darker. So I think I'm going to do mine in the darker gray thread, which is medium cool gray 0218, because it matches my fabric a little bit better. So we're going to, so his antenna and his body match. All right, so we'll get this one in here, and then we're going to move on to the, oh, then it does the lower wings. Thread this one in. Do our antenna, and I think, oh yeah, the bottom wings are the next one. So we're going to go to a lighter, kind of a blue-green. Thought his antenna and his body needed to match. And then there's some pretty decorative stitching also. Okay. So let's go on, and I'm going to go ahead and put in my color of my fabric for the thread, and it's going to be 1226 light blue, and it's kind of a blue-green that matches this fabric really nicely. So we're going to put that in, and even though we're not going to, this is going to be like a placement line, I just like to do this in case I realize, oh, there's an open decorative stitch on there. So I always change my thread for the placement in the tack down line. I just learned the hard way. So I would recommend that. I know it takes a little extra time, but it is nice so that you don't get burned later. So this is going to be the placement line for our lower wings, which is this lighter kind of blue-green. And I think this is the color they asked for, because I had some of the scraps. They have a nice new, Kimberbell has a nice new series of solid colors. I think they call them silky solids. They have some really pretty colors, and I'm pretty sure this is one of them. Had some scraps. All right, so there's our little lower wings. We're going to lay our fabric over that. And again, I have the shape flex on the back because it said to put the shape flex on. And this one definitely, you could have seen the little bugs and stuff through there. So I did put that on. So I'm going to tack that down with the same color. Get this tacked down. Now I did have to change the next color, and I'll show you why. Again, I didn't have the exact colors that they had, so I had to alter this a little bit. So we're going to trim this close to the stitches, it says. Then we're going to trim these. And the thing when you do put shape flex on the back, it does make things less ravelly. So especially if you're doing raw edge applique, or if you're doing something that has maybe a motif stitch around it that you're worried that things are going to ravel a little bit, if you put the shape flex on, it really helps stabilize the fabric. That's what its purpose is to stabilize and to prepare the fabric. So I do that sometimes when I'm worried about things raveling, or if I'm doing raw edge and I don't really want it to be like super duper ravelly. Sometimes you want it to be, but sometimes I don't. So this works very well. I was glad when I found the shape flex. It works great. I've never tried the Kimberbell version of it. I've always just had shape flex because I have access to that very easily. There we go. Okay, so I got those trimmed. Now the next step is the stitch detail in these, and I was inclined to use, this pretty kind of blue-green that I had. I was inclined to use a darker color blue-green, but then I didn't think it looked very good with this. I'm not too happy with this. So I think what I'm going to put in here is actually the color that goes with these fabrics. So I did change one color out. I like this better with these fabrics, so I think I'm going to put this in the for the detail. So this was number 019, the sky blue. So I just kind of switched that out. It was supposed to be more of a, they had kind of a gray, blue colors. And this, I think the actual color, this might not have been the actual Kimberbell color because I think it was a little darker. And they had a more of a grayish color in. And I just didn't have any fabric that matched that. So when you're picking your colors, you know, you want to do kind of the same shades that they're doing, but you do have to kind of look at your own fabrics to make them look nice together. So, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do, oh, guess what? Oh, I'm sorry. We have to do the satin stitch first. I didn't realize they so often don't do the satin stitch first. So we're going to go back to the light blue. Sorry about that. This is the light blue again. So it's going to do the satin stitches around the wings first. They normally don't do that. They normally do like details first, and then they do the satin stitch last. So, okay, we're going to go back and do that. Sorry about that. We're going to go back and do the satin stitches. And then we're going to switch over to the darker blue. It's going to hold everything down for the decorative stitching too, so that's a good idea. All right. Oh, but the nice wide satin stitch. That'll be really pretty on there. And then they're going to put like some little swirl patterns in the leaves or in the wings. Okay, we're done with the satin stitches. Sorry that sometimes I just need to look at the machine and see what it's telling me. I try to read the directions for your sakes, and sometimes I just need to look at the machine. So this is on the bottom of page 25 if you're following along in the instructions. And so now we're going to switch over to the sky blue, the 019 sky blue, and do the decorative stitch in the wings. So I hope this looks okay. I'm hoping that my fabric choices are not too outlandish here, but I was trying to use what I had because I needed to get this cut. I'm pretty sure that there's places that have kits for these online for Life is Better in Full Bloom, but I noticed that a lot of them were not, they were out or they were pre-ordered, and so I wanted to get this video going for you. So I decided to go ahead and cut out of my own stash. So some of the stuff is just a little bit different. Oh, this is going to be really pretty. This is going to be a satin stitch for the little wing detail. I think I like the dark on there. What do you think? I think I like it. And it'll match my other fabric. So I think it's going to be okay. There's so little of this piece on top that I think it might be okay. So we're doing the wing detail. This is step number 8 at the bottom of page 25. And then we'll turn the page while this is stitching and get ready for the next part. I think we're going to do the top wings next. Okay, so there's our little decorative fills in the lower wings, and the next step is going to be the placement line for the upper wings. So I'm also going to leave the same thread in because this is the color that I'm going to be doing my upper wings in. So I'm going to leave my sky blue in, and we're going to do the placement line first. Get my fabric. So this is the one I'm not sure about. So we'll see this together. Like I said, I've never done this design before, so we're just doing this together. Sometimes it's kind of fun to see how it turns out, isn't it? When you don't have the exact fabrics. And I do like kits. I really love kits, but I've been trying to do a lot of cutting out of my stash for these classes and for these videos, so that I can use up some of the scraps because I've got so many scraps, and so often all you need is real small pieces, you know. So I got this little tail here. We'll get rid of that. Okay, so then we're going to lay down. So this is the piece I chose. So let's see what happens here. I'm going to lay this down, and I'm going to try to. It's kind of directional, so I'm going to try to keep it pretty straight. And then the next step will be the tack down line. And then it looks like we're going to trim and then do the satin stitch in the same order. So it always surprises me when Kimberbell does the satin stitch before decorative stuff, because sometimes they have you leave the fabric on and then they do like the decorative things and then you trim and do the satin stitch. So I was kind of surprised by that. this is the way I normally do it, is I satin stitch and then I do the stuff on top, but with stuff that I digitize, but it just depends. Kind of sometimes on what you're doing too. So, okay. Well, we're going to see how this is going to look. So far it's okay. I do have to put this little piece on, but there's going to be a bunch of yellow around it, so I'm hoping it looks okay. All right, so we're going to trim these. Helps, Jan, if you put your scissors right side up. I kind of like this fabric. I just really like this little piece of fabric that I found with the little bees and stuff on it. I was so surprised when I looked up. I was just looking for yellow, stuff that had yellows on it. And I had 2 or 3 that were just really nice ones that I got at Joann's. I just needed to buy about, 2 or 3 little pieces to finish this out because I just didn't have any yellow. And I had Kimberbell yellow, but their regular yellow that they have for most of their stuff is a little bit on the, it's kind of creamy yellow. It's not yellow, like bright yellow. And I think their new fabric line that came out for the new quilt was more yellows. So, so I had to go buy some yellow. All right. We'll get this piece out of here. And again, this one had the shape flex on it. He told us to put it on all of it. Okay, so then we're going to do the satin stitches around those. So I'm going to leave the same color in. My sky blue, because it matched my fabric pretty well. So let's see what happens here when I put that other print on. I hope it's okay. All right, so I'll be back in a moment. I'm going to just pause for a moment while this is stitching, do all those satin stitches, and then we'll come back and do all the decorative stitching. Okay, so we got the satin stitches around the upper wing, so far so good. We'll see how this goes here. So the next step is going to be some decorative stitching on the upper wings, and I'm going to do those in yellow. It's the yellow. So I used the Brother 205 yellow. We're going to put that in and bring in some yellow, and then we're going to bring in a little bit of this color up in here for the next step. We'll do our decorative stitching. I think this might be maybe triple stitch decorative. I can't quite see. It's a little hard to tell on the screen. Just some little accents in the yellow. Yeah, maybe triple stitch accents. And then we're going to put on this other piece. So this is the piece I worried about, but it's so small. I don't, it's funny. You think it's going to not be okay, but then, it's such a small piece that it actually is okay. So we'll hopefully it'll turn out. I kind of like the print on the back of the wings so far. I tried to pick something that wasn't too busy. But as usual, I'm going to have to stop and trim my little tails. So I was hoping to get my machine service this week. I need to take it in. I might wait one more week because then we'll have Easter, and so then I'll have an extra week off, so I'd have time to get it back. So sometimes I have trouble finding a time that I can give up my machine for a week, Okay, so there's our little decorative stitches, and then we're going to do another placement stitch for that upper part of the applique. So let me get these little tails off of here. Sorry, I always have a little tail. Get those trimmed off. Okay, so now we're going to switch over, and I'm going to bring up some of that lighter blue-green into the top. So I'm going to use that color, and it's just called light blue, and it was 1226, light blue. We're going to bring that up, and that's going to be, we're going to do a placement line for this other piece of blue fabric. And then we'll do the tack down line for that. And I've also got shape flex on the back of this piece of fabric. That's what it's set to do. my little tail out of there when we get it done. And then we're oh, this one is going to have a decorative, so definitely use a matching thread for your tack down. So you wouldn't have had to for the placement, but I've just gotten in the habit. I'd switch, keep everything the same. I just makes me feel better, and then I know I'm not going to miss. Okay, so let's see what this is going to do here. So we're going to lay this over those lines, and again, it's a little directional, so I'm going to try to keep it very straight. And then we're going to do the tack down line for those upper part of the wings. See what happens. There's quite a lot of white in these, so I'm hoping that it's not too wild and crazy. But they match nicely. That was the hardest thing. Kimberbell has quite a lot of blue, but their blue is kind of distinctive, and it's not a blue. It's a little bit more green blue, and then so some of their new fabrics I think are bluer. Okay, so we're going to trim these, and then it's going to do that nice motif stitch over the top. So let's see how this looks. So I'm hoping that it won't be too wild. Sometimes when I do the classes, you know, when I actually sew everything out in advance, then I can make adjustments to my fabrics before you see that. But you know, this is a new adventure for all of us, so we are doing this together. I love to sew with my friends, so we can sit and sew together and just see how it turns out. Sometimes you just have to see how it turns out, and sometimes I surprise myself that it turns out better than I ever thought. So, all right, let's see if I got, oops, I think I've got a little spot sticking out here. Can't quite see. Nope, I think it's okay. All right, so let's see. So you don't really see a whole lot of that, so I thought it might be okay. And then we're going to put the decorative stitch. We're going to leave that light blue in, and that decorative stitch is going to go around there. And then I think we're going to add a little bit more gold or yellow. Gold. So we're going to bring that lighter greenish blue up into the top. And then we're going to add a little bit more gold for some decorative stitching. So there's around the one side. And then there's going to also be gold in there too. So I don't think you're really going to see very much of that fabric. Yeah, there's gold inside the upper wing and the lower wing. And that's the next color. So it may be okay yet. We have hope. I haven't seen this decorative stitch before. It's a little different. Okay, so now we're going to do those gold accents, and I'm going to use my pollen. It's the color is pollen. It's darker than the yellow. It's 0332, and it's still in that same family, but it's just a shade or two darker. We're going to put that in here, and then it's going to do those decorative stitches. Not like fills. I think these look like fills in the upper part of the wings. Yep, it's going to be some fills. Okay, the yellow's done. I'm really starting to like it. What do you think? Bring it out here so you can see it just a little bit better. I think I like it. So we're going to put the body on now, and the body is on page 26, and it's the first step will be, of course, the placement line. So that is going to be step number 21. So my body is a little darker gray, so I'm going to go ahead and put my medium cool gray. It does call for the lighter gray, but this matches my fabric better. So 0218, medium cool gray. So we're going to put that one in and do our placement line. Put a cute little block, simple, cute block. Really like the yellow in there too. And I think they used a plain gray, but I didn't have one, so I thought, well, we're going to put a little bit more figure in here. We'll see. They're not going to see a whole lot of this fabric, actually, so I figured it'd be fine. All right, so let's see. I'm going to cut my little tail here. Sorry, I have to stop and do that, but you can see that sometimes machines do that. All right, so we're going to lay this over the middle, and I didn't have that much of this fabric, so it had to go the way it had to go. So we're going to go with this direction and see what happens. Trying to keep it as straight as I can. Whoops. Must have broke the thread. Isn't that good when it happens when it's live and then you can see me have to go back? It's okay. Sometimes it happens. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. For those of you who are not sure how to do this, negative, positive needle, I'm just going to go back maybe 20 stitches. We might go back 30. Okay, just to make sure that we're okay. And then I rethreaded and we'll continue on. Yeah, I heard the thread break. It's amazing. You'll hear just this. There's a lot of bulk in the center there. You can hear it. I actually need to put a new needle in my machine too. Sometimes you can tell that the machine's ready for a new needle because it starts making a lot more noise. And I think it's time, so I'll put a new needle in between blocks here. Okay, so we're going to trim this one. Yep. Going to trim this one. This one also had the shape flex on it. They ended up putting all of their knots in the same place. So that's why you hear that kind of clunking noise there, because there's a lot of knots right there. So we're going to trim this. Around. Having a little trouble trimming here today. There we go. And the next block's the Birdhouse. I'm anxious for that. I think that one says to put all the shape flex on the back too. So, all right, turn this around, and it's going to do the satin stitches for the body. This one has satin stitches. I'm going to leave that same color, and they have a tendency to put all the knots in the same place. That's why it's kind of doing that little bouncing thing, because there's quite a lot of bulk that it's tying off in. You're not going to see hardly any of that gray. It's all going to have thread over it. Just a little bit in the center. I think that's going to be okay. All right, well, I'll be back in a minute when this is done, and then we're going to go on to the Birdhouse block. Okay, so there's our butterfly. You know, I was worried about this block, but you know, I kind of like him. He looks really nice. I like that I could bring up this lighter color up here and put the gold in there. So yeah, so there's my butterfly. And we're going to trim all at the end, so when we do all 3 blocks. So this one's going to be trimmed 4.5 by 4.5. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one out of the hoop, and we're going to get ready for the next block. And the next block will be the Birdhouse, and it also calls, just so you know, to put shape flex on the back of these 2 pieces of, this is the roof and the Birdhouse. So I'm going to go ahead and do that because I hadn't done that. It says wrong side of all fabrics. And then we're going to need a bigger hoop. This one's going to need, actually no, we're going to be able to do this in a 5x7. It ends up being 4x6. So I'm just going to leave it in a 5x7 hoop. So I will be back in a moment once I get my shape flex put on my fabrics and get some stabilizer in my hoop. And I need a new needle. So I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so we're ready for the Birdhouse block. So the Birdhouse block is going to be also in the 5x7, so it's going to end up being, the finished size will be 4x6, and we're going to use the geometric pattern for this one. So I'm going to put this in the hoop. I've got my no-show mesh in my 5x7 hoop then, got my bobbin thread, my pre-wound bobbin in my bobbin, And then and I wanted to tell you what I used for needles. So my needles are the Organ embroidery needles. So this is a 15X or 15 times 1 ST, and I use a number 11, 7511. And this is the one, the needles that Brother and Baby Lock ship with their machines. So I've used Organ needles for years. They're very reasonable, but they're a very good needle. So if you haven't tried these, give them a try. And they're up on the ShieldSewingCenter.com website. And I use them all the time. That's basically, I sew with them too. You don't have to just embroider with them. I sew with them because I figure if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I use the same needles all the time. I use 14s and I use 11s in the embroidery. So that's basically what I use. I have a couple of other needles I use for specialty items, but I don't change my needles out a ton because I just feel that what I am using works well and my machine sews well, and that is the important part. So, okay. So we're going to start, of course, with the quilting. So let's go get our geometric quilting design here. So this one's going to be geometric vertical. So it's going to be the up and down one. Kimberbell quilting, and it's geometric 8. And this was the little bundle. So if you bought the bundle, it was only 3 sets, you know. There was a border and two block by block and designs. So I just bought the bundle. I thought, well, I like to do the ones that they do. And I really like this geometric one. It's very pretty. And this is geometric 8, and it's 4 by 6. So let's see, we're going to have to go up a little bit here. 4 by 6, and we want the vertical one. So this is the one we're going to do. This is horizontal, and this is the vertical. So we're going to do that one. And then we'll set it. And then we're going to bring in the birdhouse. So I'm going to hit add. And then we're going to go find our birdhouse. Gotta find, oh, here it is. And there's the birdhouse. I'm glad that most of these fit in the smaller hoop. There was only the one, that first one we had to do in the bigger one. But if some of you have the smaller machines that only have a 6 by 10 hoop, if you contact me, or if you haven't seen my other video about how to take those placement lines out, just contact me and I'll show you or tell you how to do it, because it's very easy, or I can get you to my video, because it's very easy. So a lot of you, even though you have a smaller machine, you can work around it. I worked around my smaller machine for many, many years. So, okay, so now we've got this all in here. I think we're ready to hit embroidery. So again, we're back to our first. This is going to be a nice simple applique. We're going to do some, oh, I think I need to get my brown thread. We're going to have our little bird houses. I need some black and brown thread. And then I've got my pink and my yellow for my roof and my body of my birdhouse. So this is going to be a fun, it looks like maybe a decorative stitch on the edges of the birdhouse. So I think that's what it is. So we're going to start out, of course, with our quilting first. So I've got my chunk of batting. I'm going to go ahead and put my white thread in for my quilting. I think the pinwheel block we get to do some more fringe. So I'm going to show you another thing with the fringe. I showed you one way to do it in the first block, and then we'll do another one in the next block. Okay, so we're going to do our placement line for our batting. First step of our quilting. I'll find my chunk here that'll fit. It's amazing how little batting you use if you don't cut it. If you just use chunks of it, you don't really use much. And I can really conserve my batting. And I haven't been quilting too much on my long arm, but my friend Judy does, and so she brings me her chunks of batting, you know, leftover batting from when she's quilting. And this is so nice because then I can just, you know, hold it up, and this is the tack down, number 2. You do kind of have to, you know, kind of hold your batting. It likes to scoot a little. It's soft, you know. But this Hobbs batting really, I think this really works well with the pillows and even the quilts and everything, because it's lofty, but it's very soft, so it doesn't make them so stiff. And I really like that texture in the quilting. So, all right. So then we're going to trim our batting. Get this in here. Well, you can see what I'm doing. You probably can't see me trimming yet. I'm down here at the bottom of the hoop. Okay. Head up the side here so you can see me. These out of my way. Whoops. I got a tail hanging here. There we go. And we'll trim this side. I'm going to have to probably take this out. Sorry, I have to tip it because the camera's in the way. It's really hard for me to trim this one side because I'm always hitting the camera. I've learned to sew with the camera in between me and the sewing, but sometimes the trimming is hard. Because what I do is I have a webcam and I have like an arm that it fits on that's bendable, and it really works well for the videos because then I don't have to hold the camera. I have to kind of hold the camera when I'm sewing. Sometimes it bounces a little bit, but I don't have to like stand there and hold the camera or put it on. I started with using a tripod, and it was very difficult to sew with a tripod between me and what I was doing. So this works much better. Okay, so the next step number 3 will be the placement line for our fabric. And there were 3 fabrics in this. In this one, there was the background fabric, and I put shape flex on the back of each one of these. This is the Birdhouse fabric, and then this is the roof fabric. Okay, so there's shape flex on all 3 of these now. So keep your scraps of shape flex too, because sometimes you just need little pieces, to put on the backs of like these little applique pieces. These were bigger, but sometimes it's just real small, and I always keep all those scraps because I can use those all up too. Okay, so we're going to put our background fabric on here. Try to get it as centered as I can. And then step number 4, we'll tack it down for us. These pillows are so much fun. I'm looking forward to the next one too. So I'm going to do another video series pretty soon. I'm going to try to get it done as quickly as I can because it's spring and I'm trying to get, we had summer, we had spring and winter yesterday in one day because it snowed we got 3 inches of snow. Some places here in Iowa got like 9, and then it got to be 60 degrees. So all the snow melted in the same day. So we had spring and winter in the same day. So step 5 will be the decorative quilting, and this is going to be that geometric shape. So welcome to spring in Iowa. It can be spring, winter, and sometimes even summer in the same day. So you never know. If you don't like it, wait 5 minutes. The temperature will change or the weather will change. So I woke up to all the snow all over, and I came home, and there wasn't one bit of snow anywhere. It was all melted off the ground. I just really, really like this geometric pattern. Isn't that pretty? Okay, and my machine's much quieter, so you'll hear it sewing here in a little bit, but it's much quieter since I've changed the needle. And I also wanted to tell you that when I forgot to tell you with the geometric pattern when we brought it in, and then the Birdhouse design, they were centered. I was reading the pattern, but I didn't read that part to you. So align the block embroidery file with the quilting design file so that both files are centered. This one also, I believe, has a placement line at the top so that it brings the Birdhouse down further. So I've noticed that in this last couple of things I've done, they've started doing that to help people get their designs in the correct place. Otherwise, we had to move them around in the hoop, to get them into the right place on the block. So I've noticed that they've started putting some placement lines to help us. Okay, so now we're ready for the Birdhouse. I think we're going to start with the main body of the Birdhouse. So my Birdhouse is pinks. So I am going to grab my, let's see, this is my darker pink. So it's 1368 Horizon Pink. And we're going to do our placement line for the main body of the Birdhouse. Mine has polka dots. I think theirs is kind of striped. I just don't have any of their new fabric yet. It's very hard for me to find their fabric locally. So I have the Kimberbell fabric. So I generally order it online, and sometimes it takes a while. So I really wanted to get this video going, so I decided to use what I had. So we still have pink fabric, and it's Kimberbell, but it just has polka dots. So my birdhouse is going to have polka dots. Okay, so there's my placement line. I'm going to lay my fabric over that line, and the next step, we'll tack it down. And this one, are we going to do, yeah, we're going to do decorative stitching right away. I'm going to leave my same color in. And then we're going to do the decorative stitching down the sides. And then the roof. So I think the polka dots look fine. This is like one of my favorite fabrics. I love polka dots. They have a bunch of different colors in the polka dots. So, all right, so we're going to trim this one close to the stitches all the way around. And then it will do, then this one is going to be a decorative stitch on the edge. So again, if you're using different color for your tack down lines and stuff, you might want to use the same one, because the motif stitch will be a little more open than a satin stitch. So we're going to trim this down. And with the motif stitches too, you want to make sure you're pretty close when you trim, because they do actually, sometimes they're not quite as wide as a satin stitch. So you want to make sure you're pretty close so you don't have any raw edges showing. Okay. All right. So I think this one looks okay too. Yep. All right. So now we're going to do the decorative stitches down the sides, and then we'll move on to the roof. So I get my yellow ready. We're going to make that in yellow. This is a pretty wide decorative stitch. Oh yeah, this one's wider than some of them are. I love motif stitches. They turn out so cute on the edges. Yeah, this one's much wider than some of the ones they use. Yeah, can you tell my machine's quieter? That's amazing if you put a new needle in. I had not changed the needle since we started these blocks, and so we've done quite a few blocks already. And with these, you are going through quite a few layers, so I do have to change my needle quite often. I sew a lot though, and needles are not that expensive, so, and your machine sews so much better if you just change your needles regularly. So don't be afraid. The organ needles are quite reasonable, and I just change my needles whenever I feel like it's not sewing well. Put a new needle in, and it really makes a difference. All right, isn't that pretty? I like that. It's a little bit wider than the other ones. All right, so I'll just pause for a moment while it does the other side, and then I'll get ready for the yellow roof. Okay, so we got the other side done. That's a very pretty decorative stitch. And now we're going to do the roof placement line. Oops, a second here. I got a piece of fabric sticking out here. All right. So we're going to go switch over to, we're going to use yellow. So my 205 yellow for the roof here. I got to find the end of it though. Here it is. And then we're going to do, this is the placement line for the roof section. I remember learning to digitize, and I watched things sew, and that's a good way to learn how embroidery designs go together, is to just watch them sew. And I learned to digitize appliques really early on because I just watched the ones I liked to sew, and then I could figure out how to digitize it because I know the parts that I need. So it is a lot of fun. So I've watched a lot of things sew, and I like to put them in my software and watch them sew on the screen. Sometimes that helps. So we're going to lay our fabric. This one also had the shape flex on it. Lay it down and do our tack down line. And this is on the bottom of page 27 if you're following along in the directions. We're ready to turn our page here. We're going to trim the roof, and then I think it's going to do, yes, it's going to do the satin stitch. This one has a satin stitch on it. So we'll get our roof trimmed here. Oops, it's stuck. had this yellow. This is the yellow I'm going to use for my flanges and my back too. I had a bunch of, I don't know why I had so much of it. I had like a whole yard plus an extra part. I don't know why. Maybe I used it for something else. So I happened to have a bunch of that, or I thought I didn't have it and I bought it again. You know how it goes. I've done that lots of times. Okay, so this is going to be the same. I'm going to leave my yellow in, and this is going to be the satin stitches on the roof panel. And then we're going to start doing the the little bird, the holes for little birds to go in, and then the little like the little shelves where they can sit. Yeah, this is going to be a satin stitch. Okay, we're done with our roof. And we're going to, this is going to be the little, I think it does the little holes first. So I thought I'd do the little holes. Now they do them in gray. I think that would be okay. I think I might do them in black. I think it does, let me check the gray that they used. If they used the darker gray or the lighter gray. I think I'm going to like mine in black. So I'm going to use black on mine. Let's see what the gray would look like. Thought it was black, but I think it was gray. So I don't know if I'll like the gray as much. I think I'm going to put black on mine. We'll try something. We'll go rogue here. So it's going to do the little holes for the little bird. And then it's going to do the little steps to finish it off. And those are going to be in brown. This was a fun, easy block. The first block was rather challenging with all that chenilling and the fringe and stuff, and I sure like that water-soluble thread for the fringe. So we're going to do that again in the next one, because the next one also has fringe. But we're going to try a little different method. I'm going to show you what it's if you're using the regular brother or baby lock bobbin thread that you generally wind yourself. I'm going to show you a difference there. Because I have to change my bobbin cases because I use pre-wound. So when I do projects that have a lot of changing between like embroidery thread and bobbin thread in the bobbin, sometimes it's kind of, you have to change back and forth, and it's a little bit hard. So I like to do, I'll show you, I've got some brother bobbin thread that I wound, and then I will use that, and then I can use the same bobbin case. So we'll try that next time. All right, so there's the little holes. That'll be in the next part of the video. Okay, so then this one's going to be the brown. So my brown is, let's see, coffee bean, 13, I think it's a 5, just a second. Slip my glasses on, yeah, 1352. I get all those round numbers mixed up unless I have my glasses on. So this is coffee bean. We're going to put that in, and it's going to do the little posts, the little ledges for the birds to sit on. And then we'll be done with this block, and we can move on to the pinwheels. And we're also going to do the little leaf, the little three-dimensional leaves that we're going to put on the rose blocks at the end of this video. All right, so there's our little ledges. And we'll soon be done with this block. All right, we're all done. Look at there, we got the little perches. Is that what they call them? Little perches for them, the little birds to sit on. And there's my little birdhouse with polka dots. I wish my little black round circles would have lined up with polka dots, but I never get that lucky. So anyway, there's my little my little birdhouse. All right, so we're going to take this out of the hoop, and we're ready to move on to the final block. We're going to do another piece we're going to do the little leaves too, but this is the final block. Can you believe it? This is the 10th block. And then we're going to go on to, we'll make the flanges and the borders. Okay, so let's see what it says about the pinwheels here. So the pinwheels are also 4x6, so I can leave it in my 5x7 hoop. So, oops, second here, I got to grab some stabilizer. I meant to do that while it was sewing, but I didn't get it done. All right, so here's my stabilizer. I'm very lazy. I don't like to pre-cut stabilizer, so I have pre-cut stabilizer. So I can just grab a 9x12 piece and lay it in there, and I'm ready to go here. All right, so this is my no-show mesh stabilizer in my 5x7 hoop. So we got to use the smaller hoops in this one mostly. That was nice. We only had to go to an 8x8 one time. I think I'm a little off here in a second. Sometimes it pulls at the top, so let me get it pushed in here. It's hard to hoop on the machine. There we go. And then this one says to put the fusible backing on the wrong sides of the background, which I already have. But then it says it also to put it on the back of the blades fabric. So there were several pieces here. There was the background fabric for the pinwheels. And there was the blades fabric were the 3x3 pieces. So I put shape flex on the back of my two 3x3 pieces here, but it didn't say to put it on the back of the centers. So this is the center. So this must be going on. I don't know. It didn't say to put it on that. So I didn't. Wrong side of the background and blades fabric. So I went ahead and just put it on the bigger pieces, which are my blades, and these are my centers. And then it says it's 4x6. We're going to use the spring design for the quilting. And then this one's going to have fringe. So this is what I wanted to show you. So before I start this block, get a little closer here. Normally when I use pre-wound bobbins, which I do, second here, I've got some threads stuck in my cutter here. If you give me a minute, I'll take those out. Sometimes you get little thread ends stuck like in your cutter area. So keep that real clean, this area right in here, because if they get stuck in there, then your machine doesn't want to cut. Sometimes I'll get some little ends, and that's normal. So I just keep them cleaned out. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take out this is my pre-wound bobbin that I've been using the whole time. I'm going to take this out, and then this was that bobbin case that had the blue dot in it. So this one's set tight for the pre-wounds, because the pre-wound threads are normally a little thinner. Okay, so that is set tighter. Still got some thread down underneath my bobbin case, so we'll get that out too. All right, and so I'm going to take this out for this one, since I'll be using that water soluble thread. So remember in the first video, I actually replaced the bobbin case in the middle of the video because I had to wind this water soluble thread for the bobbin for part of the fringe part. So I'm going to lay this bobbin up here, but I'm going to use, so if you're using bobbins that you wind yourself from the Brother or Baby Lock embroidery bobbin thread, which is number 60, you do not have to change your bobbin case. You could leave the regular bobbin case in. This is the one I sew with, okay? But when I use pre-wounds, I do have to change it. So I'm going to put this bobbin case in for this block. So the regular one with the little green paint on the screw. And I'm going to put that one in, and then I'm going to use, this is the Brother Baby Lock bobbin thread, so I'm just going to put this in, so then I don't have to change the bobbin case out when I'm working with that water soluble thread. But I wanted to show you both ways because it depends on what you're doing with your bobbin thread. So I use pre-wound, so I do have to switch my bobbin cases occasionally. Anytime you wind a bobbin, you need to have the standard bobbin case in. If you have pre-wounds, then you need that tight one. So that's kind of the rule. If you wind it yourself, you don't need the tight bobbin case. So that's why I use both of them. And I just lay them up on my machine, and then I just switch them in and out as I need. But this one will to save a little time. So I've got my regular Brother. I think this might actually be the Baby Lock bobbin thread, because I think that's what I had. So it's the same. One says finishing touch and one says Brother on it. So it's the same bobbin thread, but it depends on where we get it from at that point. So sometimes we get it from Brother and sometimes we get it from Baby Lock. All right. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to put my 5x7 hoop back in here. And we're going to go over here and get our design. And I may have to grab some threads yet, so I may have to pause for a moment to grab my threads. So let's go ahead and get our designs first. And this one we're going to use, so we had, like our, I'll show you these real quick so I don't forget. So I had our background fabric, and that's got the shape flex. And then there's two pieces of yellow that are for the yellow the yellow pinwheel and 2 pieces of the blue greens for the bluish pinwheel. And then there's a piece of the foam. So we must be going to put that maybe, where are we going to put that? Maybe in the centers. Oh yeah, the centers of the, so that's why you don't put shape flex on this. We're putting this behind it. So the centers are going to be popped up a little bit with this foam of the pinwheels. And then there's a little caterpillar at the bottom that's going to be in the fringe. So I'm looking forward to that. So, okay. So let's go ahead and get our design here. And then I'll pause for a moment and grab my threads. I didn't get all my threads pulled because I had to kind of change color schemes here. So we're going to go to embroidery. And this one we're going to use, again, 4x6. And yeah, 4x6, but they're going to use spring 2 for this one. So we're going to go back in and get spring 2. And whoops, sorry, sometimes my fingers don't work on the screens. Go down here to spring. Sorry, I have so many designs. Spring 2, here it is. And then block by block, of course. And this one was what, 4x6. So we're going to go get the 4x6, 4x4, 4x6. So here it is. Get that one. And then it says align the block embroidery file with the quilting design file so that both files are centered. So we're going to go ahead and set this one. And I think on the last block, just so you know, let me see. Oh yeah, the very final step was actually that little placement line, and I did not sew that. So that's why I took it out after it did the little purchase. That last step we do not sew. Okay, I forgot to tell you that because I just skipped it because that's just holding everything in place so that it fits on the block correctly. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll hit add down here. Probably can't quite see it. And we'll go get the pinwheels. And my stick, like this better in full bloom. And this one's called Pinwheels, so it should be down this way a little bit further. There it is with the little caterpillar. We'll hit set. Now this one again was centered because again this one has a little, I don't know if you can really see it, it's right up here. There's a little placement stitch at the top so that it moves everything kind of downward on the block. Okay, so we're going to hit embroidery. And we're ready for the quilting. Okay, so I'm going to have to pause for just a moment and grab my threads. I didn't quite get all my thread that I needed, so I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so we're ready to start. Step 1, we're back to quilting again, so we're going to do our placement line for the batting. And I got all my threads wrangled here. There's a lot of colors in this one, so this one's going to have some fun stuff in it. So I do need to get my batting here. I think I've got all the right colors. All right, so we're going to put our batting down and then tack that down, and then we'll trim it. Kind of scoots a little bit, so you kind of have to hang on to it. Doesn't wrinkle on you. I was really glad that most of these blocks were done in the 5x7 hoop. That's so nice. Now, the first block was the only one, and then we did one in the 6x10, but most of them were done in the smaller hoops, and that's nice. I had more blocks in this one. So, like the last pillow we did, the Let Me Call You Tweetheart, that one had mostly big blocks. So I think we used the, we might have used the 8x12 or the 6x10 all the time because it was mostly large, kind of long, thin blocks. So this one had smaller blocks. I know they try to keep most of their designs in smaller hoops so that everybody can do it. But you really need to have at least a 6x10. It really helps. But there are some of the blocks that when you're using the quilting files do go over the 6x10, but you can work around it with if you have just a little bit of software. You don't need much, actually. Dime Designs and Machine Embroidery has a wonderful free software called Embroidery Toolshed, and if you buy one little piece that helps you see your patterns pictures, you can actually group and ungroup things, and you can just use that free software, and you spend very little money. So I really like that software a lot. And then there's another thing you can do that you can get lettering for a very small amount of money. So that's a good way to get software. It does a lot, even just the free version. Okay. So we're going to do our placement line for our fabric. And then we've got to get our background fabric here. I hope I got all the colors. There's a lot of colors in this one. Got my fabric, got my shape flex on the back of it. Okay, lay this over try to center it. This one's a little directional. Try to make sure I get it pretty straight here. Okay, and then we're going to tack it down. Step number 4, we'll tack it down. Yeah, this design has quite a few steps. I haven't done any pinwheels for a while. I've done the quilt. I haven't got it quilted yet, but I've done the Hello Sunshine quilt, and they did a lot of pinwheels in that. It was really cute. So I'm anxious to get that one quilted. All right, so then we're going to do the quilting, and this was the spring too, so it's going to be the cute little curly cues and the little watering can and the butterfly. And then we'll come back and start the applique, and I think we're going to start with the pinwheels. So we're going to start with the pinwheels. Okay, so there's that beautiful quilting. You can it really sticks out even with the white on the white. So I really like that texture. All right, so we're going to do we have to do the little handles for the pinwheels first. So that's going to be, looks like they're satin stitches maybe. I can't really see. I think so. And those are going to be done in the silver, kind of the silver gray, light gray. And mine's just called Silver 005. So we're going to put that in first to do the little handles for the pinwheels. And then we'll start the applique parts. Okay. Yeah, that little caterpillar is really cute. I'm anxious to try that. But you really like the water-soluble thread for the fringe, because then your fringe has that real nice loopy look. Because it's very hard, even if you try really carefully, to not cut through some of those loops on the fringe. So sometimes you want that look, but I like the little loops. So, all right, so we're doing our handles, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do I think it's the light blue pinwheel first. We're going to do some bases. Okay, so we got the little handles done, and now we're going to start working on the pinwheel bases. So the first one is this lighter kind of blue-green one. So I'm going to put that color thread back in, and I believe that one was my light blue. It's 1226. So we'll put that in. And this will be the placement line, and then the tack down line. Now this one is going to be a decorative stitch from what it looks like on the screen. So we will definitely want to use our matching thread for the tack down, because it might show otherwise. So we'll get that. And I do have the shape flex in the back of this, because they said to put it on the bases. And then I think we'll do the yellow one next, trying to look ahead a little bit here. So we're going to put this on. Okay. Let's see here. Get my little, always have to trim my little tail. Yeah, my machine really needs a spa day, but I just hate to give it up. All right, so whoops, I've got a tail up here too, so we'll get them both. Okay, so then we're going to lay this down over our pinwheel base and tack it down with the matching thread. And then we're going to trim. This is on the bottom of page 29. So the pinwheel block starts on page 29 of the instructions. around it twice. And then we're going to do the yellow. All right, so we're going to trim around these. And I think it's, yeah, then it's going to do the decorative stitch. So we'll trim first, and then it'll do the decorative stitch. Quite a bit of trimming on this one. Have to concentrate. This one's got a lot of little places to trim, my goodness. All right, sorry, I have to flip this around so I can get all these pieces. And it does really help, especially when you're doing the motifs, that it's got that shape flex in the back, because then it keeps it from raveling. And it's a little easier to trim. It gives a little more body. Okay, there's that. Just about there. These are cute. And then we're going to put some, we're going to pop those centers up in the, with the foam. It'll be really cute. Yeah, can't get it in there. There we go. All right, so there's that. And now we're going to do the decorative outline for the first part of the pinwheel. I'm going to leave that same color in and do that, and then we're going to move on to the yellow. So I'll get my yellow ready for the base. All right, so there's our decorative outline around that little base. And now we're going to move on to the yellow base. Now this one they bring in a lighter yellow. So I have a lighter yellow yet. And even though it's called cream brown, but it's one of the old brother colors. It's called cream brown 010. It's very, very pale yellow. So we're going to use that for our very light yellow for this. And we're going to do our placement line first, and then tack our fabric down. So this is the second base. So this one also has, let's see if I can get a hold of it here. This one also has the shape flex on the back. And this one's kind of directional, so I'll have to decide which way I want to do it. But let's get our placement line on here. And then the next section is going to be the foam. That could be interesting doing the trimming on that, because they're pretty small. Okay. So I think I want to do it this way. So I'm going to have to make sure it's fairly, otherwise it might look a little crooked. So we're going to try to do it kind of this way, I think. And I'll line it up, make sure I get it all covered here. I'm glad they made this one plenty big, because it's hard to see. All right, so we're going to try to keep it as straight as possible. Okay, so then we're going to tack this down and trim this one. But those centers are going to be pretty small, so that could be interesting, trimming that foam in the center there. Left that same light colored yellow, that cream brown in there. And I'm actually going to leave that color in for the Flexi Foam, for the foam placement lines and tack down, because it's very, very light colored and you'll hardly see it. And it'll be okay to do that. So, all right, so we're going to trim this one now. I kind of liked this yellow. This is one of the ones I had to purchase because I didn't have enough. This one had like 3 or 4 yellows in it, and I just didn't have that many, so I had to go buy a couple. This is one of the ones I found. I thought it was pretty. But it is a little directional, so you have to kind of pay attention to how you put it on so that it doesn't look crooked. All right. To kind of flip-flop this around. Sorry, I'm moving the hoop so much. This one's a little easier to trim because they kind of put like a flat center, so it's a little easier to get in there at least. Okay. We got that trimmed, and then the next step is going to be the decorative outline. This one's also going to be decorative, so I'm going to leave my same yellow in there, my light yellow, and it's going to do the decorative stitch around the yellow pinwheel. And then we'll move on to the flex foam. Okay, so there's our decorative outline around the yellow, and now we're going to do the placement line. So the next step is the placement line for the flex foam. A second here, I got to get a hold of the flex foam. So we're going to do these little placement lines in it, and it's going to do all of it at the same time. I think it looks like it's going to do all of it at the same time. And this could be interesting to trim, so we'll see how this works out. They're pretty small, so this was not it's amazing, like we've talked about before. Isn't it amazing how they look so big on the, on the book? And they look so big, and then you sew it out and it's like, oh my gosh, it's only a ½ inch. It just looks so, it's cool. They have good photographers that take nice pictures of everything, so it's amazing how big they look. And I had that happen to me when I was working on my on the class that I'm going to teach this evening, because this is Sunday, and I teach software class tonight, and it looked so cool on the screen and so big, and then I stitched it out and I went, oh, it's not as big as it was. I just thought it was going to be too big, and it actually turned out really good. So all right, so there's our placement lines, and then we're going to lay our Flexi Foam down. Now we might need some tape for this. This Flexi Foam sometimes scoots on me. Not sure, maybe not. We might be okay. So I'm going to put it up. So we need to get all the way up here so we can get both of these pinwheels on here. So make sure we get it. No, I think it'll be okay. I don't think we'll have to tape it down. Sometimes I have to tape the fabric down over it because it scoots on it. So I'm just going to hold this. We're going to do our tack down line. And then we're going to attempt to trim these little bitty triangles. We'll see how that goes. They're pretty small. Wow, those are little. May have to put my glasses on for these guys. I don't know. They're pretty little. I had a little cut down here. I was hoping I was going to be able to avoid it. I was using scraps of this too. Keep all your scraps, because sometimes you don't need much. And I just keep every scrap for Kimberbell, because I so often just need just little itty bitty bits. And so basically every little scrap of fabric I keep, because so often I go back and I was like, oh, I have just the right size, it's 2 by 2 or something, So I usually, I think this is going to be okay, so I don't have to hold it, because the split's over here, so I think I was able to avoid it. And then we're going to try to trim these, so get my specs out so we can see what we're doing here. And then we're going to put the fabric over those. And the fabric for these, I'll definitely want to, tape down, because these are pretty small, and the fabric pieces are pretty small. All right. And I just left that yellow in there because it won't show. It's very light colored. And the next step, we're going to put the darker blue in. So, okay, so let's see how we can do with these. This could be exciting, because trimming this is always a little tough anyway, and these are so small. All right, so I'm trying to lift up, and if you pull a little bit, it's easier to get it to trim close to the stitches. So just don't trim through your stitches. Wow, these are little. Okay, I'm kind of pulling up. I don't know, I think I can do it. Got to have confidence. All right, and we'll get that out of the center too. There's little bits in the center there. Okay, well, getting around. Sorry, I got to flip-flop this hoop around so much, but let's see. I'm gonna cut this little center part off so I can get a little better view of what I'm doing here. All right, flip this around. Whoops, I think I missed a spot. Sometimes the little tricot doesn't like to trim out, so I have to go back and get that. It is pretty, so if you kind of flip them, you know, kind of pull it up, it's easier to get in here. So there we go. Let's take a little longer. Just take your time. Yeah. I think that's, whoops, I missed a little bit of tricot there again. Okay. All right, so there's the first one. Got the first one done. Let's see if we can get this one done. So, all right. Wasn't as hard as I thought it might be. There's a little space in between, so it's not so bad. They were pretty small, though. I don't know if I've ever done any foam this small before. Usually they put larger pieces, but I think this is going to look neat because it'll give some dimension to the pinwheels then. Okay, I got that little piece of tricot in there to get rid of. It's like foam, and it has this little, it's almost like a lingerie fabric. You know, it's like, they call it tricot. It's just a real thin fabric that they put over the foam, so you're not just using foam. I think it lets the fabric go over it better too. You know, the foam sticks to everything, so they usually put it. And you can get this without the tricot also, but I usually buy this because then it's easier to put the fabric over it. All right, so I might get down in between this one. Good thing I got these little teeny tiny scissors. Wow, you really need good points. If you have scissors that don't have good points on them, it's going to be hard to get that one done. Okay, so there is our foam. You can see it's got dimension. You can see it in there. And then the next step is going to be the blue one. So we're going to put that blue, my darker blue in. And that one is going to be the, let's see, I think it's the sky blue. Yeah, so it's going to be my 019 sky blue. This will be the placement line for the fabric for that one. It's going to be over this one. I gotta get the little flipper down there. And then we'll put our fabric down, and then we have to trim it again. Try to trim the fabric. This is the placement line over those little pieces of foam. And then we're going to lay this piece down. Now this one I probably will tape, just because it's a little poofy, and it likes, sometimes my fabric likes to move around. Get this tail out of here. All right, so we'll lay this down. And they did make it big enough. That's nice that they made it a little bit bigger so that it just gives you a little extra. So you can get some tape on both sides. So I'm just going to tape it down because of the dimension. Ooh, I need some tape. Get some tape out while this one's sewing. Okay. All right, so now it's going to tack it down, and then we're going to trim. I need to refill my tape dispenser. Oh boy, I'm really going to need my glasses for this one. I have so many rolls of Kimberbell paper tape because every single event and every single kit has a roll in it, and I have I don't know, probably 20 of them in here. So I don't think I'm going to run out of tape for a while. All right. Okay, so now we got to trim this. This could be exciting. Let's see if we can do this. Definitely going to put my glasses back on because my fabric my thread matches my fabric really well. All right. So I want to stay pretty close. Let's see, this one, is it a decorative? Let's see what it says. This is also a decorative, so you're going to want to be pretty close to your stitching because it's not going to be, and I also use the matching thread for my fabric so that it won't show, my tack down line won't show through. I've got some hairs, so I might have to go get my little tape runner so that it cleans that up a little bit. This one's not very close. Let's see if I can get a little closer. Yeah, you definitely need your little tiny tips. I've always struggled using those little duck bills because I just can't get close enough with them. That little duck bill is so big, even the little teeny ones, because I have a pair of those and they work nicely for some applique, but not for this type. This is so small. That would not work for me. Need something with a sharper tip on it. Okay, so let's see if I can blow it off. So I don't need to get my tape runner out. Sometimes I get a tape runner, you know, my little tape runner that I use for the cat hair, and that takes some of these little hairs off, but I think it's okay. All right, so this next step is going to be that decorative edging on there. That was small. All right, away it goes, and then I think we do the, yep, we're going to do the yellow one next, and this one we're going to put the little darker yellow in. So we'll do that on next. I've got little hairs flying around my hoop here. This is going to bounce a little bit, just so you know, because there's a lot of, it's going over a lot of bulk. So if you can kind of hear it, it is going to bounce a little bit. And sometimes if it's bouncing, just put your hand at the bottom of your hoop and it'll keep it from bouncing up and down. And I don't change my needle. I still use a number 11 needle. I very rarely break needles, but when it bounces like this, just lay your hand here and it keeps it from bouncing up and down. Yeah, that's pretty thick. Because it's also going over, you know, the decorative stitch from the other one. So it looks good. All right, I think it's about done. It made it. All right, so let's do the other one. So I'm going to switch to my, this is my yellow, I think, for this one. This one was the, yeah, the yellow. So I'm going to switch to that color. And that was 205 yellow. I need to write it on the top. I just brought this new spool of thread home the other day, and I'm going to have to write that on the top because the brother spools are notorious for the thread, the labels to come off at the bottom, and they've always been like that for years and years. So I always write that on the top. Okay, so this is our placement line for our piece of fabric, and this is my yellow fabric that's going to go in the center. Just going to do our placement line. And we'll tape this one down too because it's got, you know, that foam under it, so I think it'd be easier. Should have got my tape runner out. Look at all those little hairs all over the place. Okay, so we'll get this out of the way. Get this one, and I'll tape this one down. Got some more tape in my tape dispenser. I love the tape dispenser. It cuts. I have one of the other ones that came from the, like the Band-Aid department at Walgreens, and that one works good, but it doesn't cut as well as this one. This one has a nice cutter in it. I got this one in my Bella box. Okay, so now we're going to do the tack down line. Whoops, helps if I slide the hoop back in. There we go. And then we're going to try to trim this one. We're doing okay. It's pretty small though, isn't it? You know, when they show all the pictures of it, it just always looks so big, and it's like, wow, it's so big, and then you actually do it, and it's like, my goodness. Way small. Okay. Got my glasses on again, because this one's really matchy. Also, okay, so again, this one's going to be a decorative stitch, so we want to be pretty close to the stitches. Try not to cut through them, because the decorative stitches are never as wide, but that looks pretty good. The blue one looks really nice. All the little hairs out of there. This particular fabric happened to be kind of ravelly. Some fabric is. Have you noticed that some fabrics are and some fabrics just aren't? But this one is. Okay, let's see if I can get down in this little point better. Didn't do too well right there. Okay. And then we're getting there. Wow, I was surprised they put foam underneath that little small area, but it is nice. Very small though. Pull it up a little bit, it helps. But you don't want to pull too hard because then you'll pull it right out from underneath those stitches. So don't pull too hard. Okay, one last side. We did it. All right. Blow some of those little hairs off of there. Okay. I'm going to leave that same color in, and now it's going to do the decorative outline around that center. Boy, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get those trimmed, those small. Away it goes. Okay, so we got around that. Got our decorative stitches on, and so now, we get to start working on the caterpillar. So the next step, this is on page 31, and it's step number 27. So it says change the bobbin to a water-soluble thread or a visible color. So if you don't have water-soluble thread, like I often use black. In this case, there's some black thread that's going to be used, so you might want to use like yellow or something that you're going to be able to see, or orange or something else. But I'm going to take my bobbin remember, this is my brother or baby lock bobbin thread that I wound myself. I'm going to take it out of the bobbin case, and I don't have to change my bobbin case this time because I can put my water soluble in. So here's that water soluble thread that we used in the first video, and I'm going to put that in now. And we're going to put the orange is the first part of the caterpillar. So we're going to put my orange thread in, and it is the 0330 burnt orange. So we're going to put that in the needle, and then I think we're going to do black. So it's going to be the orange and then black. All right, so let's get this in here with the water-soluble thread in the bobbin. I was very pleased with the way this turned out. It takes a little bit to dissolve, I have to say, and I'm using the thread called Vanish, and it's from Superior Threads, and I haven't got any on the website yet because I wanted to try it first to see how it worked, and it seems to sew through the machine fine. So I'll get some so that we will have some on the website. So it's going to do the orange, and then we're going to switch over and do some black because our little caterpillar is going to be orange and black. Well, I haven't seen a caterpillar for a long time. Well, it's getting on to the time of year when you'll start seeing caterpillars once it starts warming up again. I think we're all looking forward to spring. It hasn't been a cold winter here in Iowa, but it has been kind of a long winter, and it's been very dreary. The whole winter we've had a lot of gray skies and stuff, so it's kind of nice to see the sun. So yesterday it was beautiful afternoon, and like I said, it started out with, all the snow, and then it was like, I don't know, over 60 like yesterday afternoon, so there was no snow left. But it was still, and today it's a little on the dreary side again. I said we might have some more snow tonight or today sometime. Okay, so I'm going to trim this little jump stitch here. Maybe. Sometimes I can't get the tip of my scissors in there. Okay, there's that. Okay, so then we're going to put in the black to do the second part of the fringe. So stitch the caterpillar outer black fringe. Okay, so we're going to do the black. We're going to put this orange back in again. Get my black. So, I might lay this one down. I've got another one of those. Sorry, I hit the camera. I have another one of those spools that doesn't want to close. So I think I'll lay this one down. Sometimes it gets a little finicky because that likes to catch on that little ledge. Every now and then I'll have a couple, you know, a spool like that. All right, so we're going to do the black now. I've still got that water-soluble bobbin thread in there. So it's going to do the rest of the fringe. And then we're going to switch it to, we're going to switch our bobbin thread back to the regular bobbin thread, and we're going to, it's going to do that little trapping stitch. Well, he's going to be a furry guy, isn't he? It looks like there's like fringe down the center too. So it's got two layers of fringe, like an outside and an inside layer. That's really cool. So I was glad to try the water soluble this time, because I had been wanting to try it and I just didn't have any. So I asked Judy and she had some. My friend Judy had some. So got to try it this time. You do have to get it pretty wet and let it set for a little bit, and then try to take that kind of like sludge off, because it kind of gets kind of gooey sort of, and then if you just kind of rub that off, then all of a sudden all the fringe just starts coming forward. So you have to kind of use your seam ripper to get it to come forward, but it works really well. Okay, so this is step, we're doing, make sure I don't miss anything. So this is step number 28 on page 31, and then we're going to change the bobbin thread back because we need to do the trapping stitches. That's cool. So they have different sizes. You know, they're doing like the fringe, so make them different lengths. Cool. I like that. And then it's going to go down the center and do it again. So you have an inside layer too. Cool. So now we have to change the bobbin thread. So it'll do the trapping stitches, because we don't want that to melt away. We just want to melt away what we just did. So I'm going to pull this out. And this way I didn't have to change my bobbin case. So here's my wash away. Take it out. We're going to put the regular bobbin thread back in, and it's just white. Put that one back in. And that way I didn't have to change my bobbin case. And then it's going to do the trapping stitch. So it does it like a teeny tiny little narrow zigzag to trap all those stitches so that they won't come out. So it's very, very narrow. I want to say maybe, I left the black thread in because it said to leave the black thread in. Because it's going to do the trapping stitches on the black, and then it's going to go back and do the trapping stitches on the orange, because we have to put the orange back in. So it does them in the matching color. So it's just going to go around and do the black ones this time, and then it's going to do the orange. And then we'll change back and do the center. So this one had several changes in it. This is cool. Learning more about fringe. I don't get to do fringe. I don't do fringe very often. It's really cool to do it. Okay, so there's the trapping stitches, and then it's going to go across and do, so then it has to do this one yet. But when they first started doing fringe, they didn't stop the machine, so you had to, you know, to trim it from the back, because they didn't stop the machine between the fringing and the trapping stitches. So I was glad they started doing that to give us the option of using this other method. So, all right, it's just about done. I'll trim a little bit because I have a few little jump stitches. We'll trim those out of there. And then it's going to do the trapping stitches in the orange. So we'll put the orange in, get these trimmed out of here. And then we'll do the orange. So sorry, I'll stop and do the trimming now because it's better just to do it as you go. There's a little bit of, sometimes when they're so close together, the jump clipper doesn't clip them, you know. So those are pretty close together. Okay. All right, so now we're going to put the orange back in. I'll pull the black out and put the orange back. I can put that one up on my thread stand. But yeah, this black, I'm trying to get this black spool used up. It's just about gone, but it's got that little ledge that doesn't want to shut. Okay, so we're going to put this one back on, and we're going to leave the regular bobbin thread in for this one. So this is step number 30 on page 31. The little trapping stitches. And I think we have to go back to black again. Yep. No, we're going to leave the orange in. Then we'll go back to black. But we're going to change the bobbin thread in the next step. So make sure you're reading the directions carefully so you have the correct bobbin thread in. You always know though that when it's doing the little teeny tiny little zigzags, that needs to have regular bobbin thread because that's the trapping stitches and those will not dissolve. The dissolvable is in there for the wide satin stitches that'll be your fringe. It's cool. I like the way they made it different lengths around the outside edge. Okay, so I think that might be the last trapping stitch in the orange, and then we're going to leave the orange in, but now we need to change the bobbin thread again because it's going to start working on the center fringe. Okay, so I'm going to pull this out and put my water-soluble bobbin thread back in. And I didn't have to change the bobbin case, so I would recommend, so it depends on, what you do. This is a way, I do wind some bobbins with bobbin thread, but not that much. But then for this kind of method, it makes it faster. Okay, so then we're going to leave, this is step number 30. I changed the bobbin thread, and then it's going to do the inside orange. So I'm going to leave my orange in, and now it's going to do the fringing stitches with the water soluble, and then we're going to switch to the black, and it's going to do the black. Yeah, so then it'll do the black. So we'll switch it to black and it'll do the fringe, and then we're going to switch back to the we'll switch back to the regular bobbin thread to do the trapping stitches. So this is step number 31 on page 31. Oh, cool. So he's going to be kind of fringy, like it's kind of a circular pattern. That's cool. Very neat. This is how I learned to make fringe, was watching it sew. So this is a new method. I'd never tried this before. This is cool. I like the way they did the different widths, and I can do that in my software. Okay, so now this is step number 32. We're going to leave the water soluble in there, and we're going to put the black back in, and it's going to do the black for the center. Okay, get that. And we're going to do the fringing part, and then we're going to change the bobbin thread back. You do black and orange one more time for the trapping stitches. So make sure that you label your bobbin that you have your water soluble on. I'm just going to put like a little sticker on it that says water soluble because it's in there right now, but I'm just going to put a sticker on it so that I remember that's what's on there. Because you don't want your water, you don't want anything to dissolve if it's not supposed to. That's cool. See, they've got kind of like a little round center, and I suppose the trapping stitches will be like little centers. So he's going to be all fuzzy in the middle. This one will be fun to rinse out, won't it? Very different. And the last thing we're going to do in this video is the little leaves, the little 3D leaves that we're going to put on the roses. So I'll get ready and we'll do that at the end while this is kind of dissolving, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's all, we'll fringe on it. Well, that's cool. So they're going to probably put like little centers in there. That's really awesome. And then we're going to change our bobbin thread again after this part. He's going to be a fuzzy little caterpillar. Okay, so now I'm going to change, this is step number 33, we're going to change the bobbin back to the regular bobbin thread. Okay, Take that water soluble out, and I will mark this so that I remember that it's water soluble. You can kind of tell it's different because it's much thicker than the regular bobbin thread. All right, put the regular bobbin thread, and this is one that I wound, so I didn't have to change my bobbin case. And then it's going to do the trapping stitches. So we're going to start with the black. They're going to do the trapping stitches on the black sections, and then we'll put the orange in one more time and do those. That's going to kind of do a little circle in the center there, just to hold them all in place, and he's going to be all fuzzy. You might need to hold it, it might rattle a little bit. It's going through quite a lot of thickness, so I'm just putting my hand down at the bottom here to keep it from bouncing so much. Okay. Got 2 of the 3, do the third one here, and then we'll put the orange in one more time. So this one had a lot of little color changes in it. All right, get the orange ready. And we'll do then they have to do little trapping stitches on those little orange pieces. Okay, get that one in here. I like that burnt orange. It's very bright. Okay, so then it does it's going to do the trapping stitches for that with our standard bobbin thread. All right, so, and the last step is not going to be another one of those placement lines that we're not going to sew. The last step. So then we'll start the fringing process, and then I'll pause for a moment and get ready to do the little leaves while this is dissolving. And like I said, you do have to get it pretty wet. I noticed that I had to get it pretty wet, but then I noticed that if I took the kind of that sludge off, it gets a little sticky. The last step is a little placement line up here. We're not going to stitch that one. Okay, so that just kept the block in where we wanted it. All right, we're done. So I'm going to take this out. I've got my regular bobbin thread back in here again, and I'm just going to leave this bobbin case in because I'm not sure if I need to use bobbin thread for the next step or not. We'll see. I'm just going to leave it in for right now, and then we're going to start the dissolving process here. So I've got my little spray bottle with my water. So I've got that little I think we've got the spray bottle and the tape dispenser in the same Bella box. So I'm going to start the dissolving procedure by spraying this, and you do need to get it pretty wet. So I'm just going to let it get it pretty wet, and then I'm just going to set it up here and let it soak in for a little bit, and we'll work on the little leaves while we're waiting for that to dissolve. So I'll be right back. I just have to get all my stuff ready for the next little leaves, and then we'll trim our blocks and do the fringe yet. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I was kind of reading through the directions for these dimensional fleets. This is on page 33. So we have to make 3 of these. And I was kind of looking through it, and they're not very big. So I think we could actually get all 3 of them in the same hoop, because I looked at the design and it's only 4.5. So I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to put all 3 of these in the same hooping. Okay, so here's the design, and it's 4.5 by 1 and 1.05. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over. So we're going to set it. I'm going to edit, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. And I think it's open on the top then, so I don't think it really matters there. But then what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to duplicate it. So I'm going to duplicate it 2 times because we want 3 of them. Okay. And we're just going to kind of move them around on the screen here a little bit so that they're we leave them a little ways apart, because we got a 7-inch frame, so we can kind of move them apart here. So there's room in between. But I thought, well, this might give us a chance to get them all 3 done at the same time here. 3 different colors of fabric, so you just want to leave a little space in between. Okay, so let's see what happens here. So I'm going to go down at the bottom of my screen, and I'm going to hit this little select button. I'm going to select them all. And then let's see if I can kind of, there's an alignment button right here. This is my luminaire. So I can align them this way so that they're kind of aligned. And I think we're going to be good. And I'm going to center them in the hoop then. So I think that'll work. I centered them. I aligned them this way so that they're all aligned. And then I left some space in between. Click OK. And then I'm going to go and click embroidery. But I want all the steps to sew at the same time so I don't have to do each one separately. So I'm going to hit layout and I'm going to do the color sort on this one. So that way it'll do all of the placement lines and then all of the sewing lines. So I don't have to stop in between. So see how it changed it so all the placement lines are up here and then all the sewing lines. Okay, so let's hit that. So now see how they're all the same together. So it's cool. So then we can do all of these at the same time. Now the one thing I normally do when this is like sewing, you know, they're just not having you sew them with the sewing machine. They're doing them in the hoop. So what I'm going to do is I did wind some embroidery bobbin thread, or I'm sorry, bobbin or embroidery thread that matched my top thread. And I'm just going to do them all in this kind of neutral green because all of mine are about the same color green. And this is my spring or fresh green, 027. So I wound a little bit on the bobbin so that I could just use this in the bobbin because it's a little stronger than regular bobbin thread. I was afraid I might break the bobbin thread. So it doesn't say to do that, but I just, normally when I sew things together, I put embroidery thread in the bobbin. It's just a little stronger. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. I've got them all color sorted, so we're going to do the 3 placement lines, and we can do all 3 of these at the same time. All right, so let's just do and I use my 5x7 hoop. You just put a piece of no-show mesh in, and then we're going to gather our fabric here. It's like I felt like I was wasting so much stabilizer because the design's not very big. So, okay, so you're going to put your fabrics, you cut 2 fabrics of each color, and then you're going to put them right sides together. Now this one is the same on both sides. So I'm going to put these all right sides together because, you know, we're going to be sewing these together. So the wrong side is going to be, okay, on the outside. Right sides together. I'm going to get these all ready. This one. Okay. So we had 3 different colors that were, I think they were 2 by 5.5. Let's see if we can get all 3 of these in the same hooping. Okay. So then I'm going to lay these all down. And since there's 3 of them in here, I might actually just put a little tape just to make sure nothing moves on me. Since there's 3 things in here, I may put a little tape on the ends just to keep things from, you know, moving around. So, okay, we'll put these all on. And that's what step number 3 is. So loading was 1, the placement line was 2, and then the 3rd step is going to be the stitching down. So I've got these right sides together. We'll lay these all down. Okay, put a little tape on these. The foot will lift in between, so it should be fine, but I figured that will just make me feel better. Sometimes things happen that you never intend. Get some tape for this one. So then we got all 3 of them in here. That worked out good. A couple more pieces of tape. And I only had to use 1 piece of stabilizer. Okay, so then we're going to put this in, and then it's going to do the stitching line for all 3 of them. And again, I just kind of did them in this neutral green. It's about the color of this one, but it kind of matched all of them, so that way. And then I put it in the bobbin. I just feel like the embroidery thread's a little stronger when I'm sewing things, so I usually do that. The bobbin thread is much thinner than regular embroidery thread is. And it leaves an opening. think the opening, yeah, the opening is on the upside. All right, and it's going to go down and do this third one. Look, we got them all done. So all we have to do is turn them. We're going to do a little clipping because they're kind of round. We're going to clip them. And it says to remove the project from the hoop, trim around the leaf 1/4 inch from the stitch line, and then you're going to clip and notch the curves. So that area where it's open, you could leave just a little extra so you have a little more to tuck. So I might actually just leave a little extra there. So I have just a little bit more to tuck in. There we go. Look at there. We got them all 3 done at the same time. What a deal. So I'm going to take these out. See if I can get all the tape off of them. I can use that tape again. I use my tape over again. I lay it on my sewing machine until it doesn't stick very well, and then I get new tape. I have so much I should just use all new tape, but you know, I was taught to not be wasteful. My parents grew up during the Depression. My parents were older when I was born, so they were never wasteful. And I guess they taught me that as well. Okay, so I'm going to take this out, and then we're going to trim around. I'm just going to use scissors for that, of course, because it's kind of small. So we're going to do about 1/4 inch seam, seam allowance. I'm just going to use my little scissors here. Go about 1/4 inch from the stitching. I'll just do one right now, and I can do the others off camera, but I wanted you to see how to do one of these because these look pretty simple. And then we're going to trim our blocks. I got to move the camera so we can trim our blocks and we can do our fringe. Might wait for a second and we'll do the fringe first. Hopefully it's melting up there. Takes a little while. So I think maybe I might go out just a little bit where that opening is, just to give me just a little bit more to tuck. I may not need it, but let's, I figure we'll be safe than rather safe than sorry, right? Okay, and then we can go up this way. So I'm just doing about 1/4 inch, doing the best I can to get 1/4 inch. Okay, so here's our leaf. So I left a little tab up here just to give me a little something to tuck. And then we're going to do some notching and, do some little clips because there's a bunch of little curves in this. And then up here at the tip, I am going to kind of clip this tip up. Don't get too close because it you don't want to poke your little Floriani tool through there. I'm going to clip down there. Sorry, I'm shaking. I haven't had my lunch yet, so I need to go eat. I think my blood sugar goes down. I've been having fun making these blocks, and I really need to go eat. It's almost 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday, and I haven't had my lunch yet, so I probably better eat, huh? Whoops. So we're getting close to the end of this. I think, did I get all the way around? I guess I did. Okay. So then we're going to poke this through. This could be interesting to poke through. Let me get my little Floriani tool here, if I can find it. Where'd it go? He likes to go to the bottom of my drawer. It's in here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Okay. Let's see if we can get this to come out. This could be interesting, guys, to do this. And I have a turner tool, but like a point turner. What do they call them? Like tube turner. So I may have to use that. This is really small to get it started. Let's see if I can get it started. Wow, very small. This could take me a while. I may have to go off camera and get it started, but I usually can get it going with this little point tool. Sometimes what I do is I take just a piece of thread and I put it in here and I come up through with a needle, and that helps, but this is really small. Let's see if I can get it started. Once you get it started, it goes, but I'm using my little Floriani, my precision turner to get it started here. I think it's going to go. And it does have some stabilizer in there, so that helps. Oh, there, it's going. It's starting. It's starting. So if you kind of push it into the center and open it up a little bit so it's not so tight, it's starting. These are a little tricky. Get it going here. Once you get it started, it goes pretty quick then, but it's just being contrary for me. It's because I'm on camera, you know, and you're wanting me to get it done quickly. All right, well, we're still working at it. It'll go. Once you kind of get it started, it goes through, but man, that's really small. It's working through. There we go. Okay, I think it's going to work through now. Okay, we're getting there. Gotta do the other side. All right, there we go. There it goes. It went. Okay, got to get the little tip up here. Okay. All right, let's try to see if we can get the other side now. And then you just tie it in a knot, it says. Let me get it started here. Kind of put your finger there, and then you can kind of get it started. It's always hard to do these little things, but sometimes I take a needle. So like if you take a needle and you tie on the tip here and pull the thread through, that's the one, another trick of turning things that are really small. I usually can get them, but you just have to be patient. Work it through. There it goes. The second half was easier. So I think I'm going to have to go press this a little bit before we tie it. So I think I'll press it first. So let's go in. Whoops, I got a little bit more of the tip up here. There we go. But the point turner, as you can see, I'm using my point turner, and that's working really well. There we go. Cool. Okay, so let me go press this up a little bit, and I'm going to flip this in. Okay, so you're going to flip this little piece in. Okay. And I did leave the little extra, so it seemed to work pretty well. So I'm just going to flip this in, and I'm going to go press this really well before I go to, we're just going to tie a knot in the center of it. So let me just turn the camera off for a minute, and I'll go do that. And then we're going to do 2 more of them. And the first thing we're going to work on the next thing we're going to work on though is the caterpillar. Okay, so there's my little, I gave it a little press, and then it just says to tie an overhand knot. So let's see if Jan can tie a knot. This is always, and it's going to cover up, they don't have you do anything with the hole, they just have you leave it. So let me see if I can get a knot tied in it. And it'll cover up that little hole. But it does help to press it first. See if I can get it. I have trouble with knots. Do you guys have trouble with knots? Let's see if I can get it. Okay, got to get the end here. All right. So I don't want it to be too tight yet because I got to get it into the center. Boy, they don't make this easy, do they? It's small. Let's see here. You got to pull it through because you want to kind of be in the center of it, right? I'm not very good at knots, so. It'd be easier on the second 2, but this one you can kind of see. I can struggle too with these kind of things. Oh, I think we got it here. Okay. There we go. So there's our little leaf. Isn't that cute? Very cute. See, and you can't even tell that there's any opening or anything in there. Okay, so you're going to make 3 of those. So here's my other 2, and I'll trim these off camera. You don't need to watch me do those again. I think you can understand. And there's my first little leaf, and then here's the other 2, and these will be more different patterns. So I had 3 different patterns, but there's the first one. Look at there, isn't that cute? So we got our leaves done. And we're going to trim our blocks here in a minute, but let's do the fringe first. So give me a second here. I'm going to clean up a little space here and see how my fringe is doing up here. And then we will work on that. I'll show you how I'm going to take the little caterpillar apart. I might need to spritz him again. I'll take a look at him here, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here's our little caterpillar. Let's see how he's doing here. So what I did first, and I found this the last time too, I kind of took my thumbnail and went over the back of him a little bit because it kind of loosens up those stitches on the back. And then you kind of take there's a little bit of a gooey sludge from the water-soluble thread. So let's turn him over now. And it says to work from the inside out. So we're going to try to loosen some of these stitches here. So I use my seam ripper. Use the back of your seam ripper. Don't use the front of it. Use the back. You don't want to take a chance to cut any of those stitches. I'm just kind of using the back side of it right here, okay? And they're coming loose. Look at there. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. So if you just kind of take it and loosen the stitches on the back, it's easier to leave it in the hoop. So you notice I've got it in the hoop here yet. And there's some stuff down here. I might need to spritz him one more time because there's a couple stitches in the middle here. They're not very loose yet. But you do have to get it pretty wet. Oh my gosh, isn't he cute? He's going to really be cute. So if you just kind of use the back of your seam ripper, there's something else that's kind of pointy that you just don't want to cut. So just be careful not to cut. And there might be a little bit more. Sometimes when you get some of it out on the front, you can then go back to the back again and see kind of where you're stuck in the back. So I'm going to work around the outside edge as well. So I'm working around the outside edge now. Oh my gosh, isn't he going to be cute? He's so fuzzy. Then we'll look at the back and see if there's some spots that we need to maybe spritz a little bit more to get all the way out. But oh my gosh, isn't he darling? I love fringe. I've been making fringe. That was like one of the very first projects I ever taught was a fringe project. And that was when it was so new. And everybody was like, wow, you know. So cool. Okay, so let's turn him over and see. But look, isn't he darling? He's all fuzzy. Okay, so let's see how we're doing on the back. So see, there's a couple spots in the back yet that are a little bit stuck. So if you kind of take your fingernail, I might need to spritz him a little bit more to get some of those threads in the center to loosen up. But you get the idea. Isn't that awesome? Yeah, so see, there's some of these little center spots yet that are kind of stuck yet. But it's getting there. Oh my gosh. Yeah, but just kind of loosen the threads from the back to start. And then you can start working from the front. But I might have to go do a little bit more on the back yet with some more water. There's just a couple spots up here that are still stuck a little bit. Just might need to spritz up there a little bit more. But oh my gosh, isn't he darling? Now they do say in the instructions to, you know, once you get him all loose, you know, all the stitches loose and everything that you want, to take a little tape and just tape up, you know, the fringe, you know, tape over the fringe and tape it kind of upward so that when you go to trim and when we go to sew it together, that we don't catch any of his fringe because he's going to kind of be laying kind of on the bottom of the block. So I'll do that. And he needs to dry too, but I will trim this before it's dry. But I might need to do just a little bit more. But oh my gosh, isn't he cute? What a cute fringe project. Love that. Yeah, I've got it almost done, but I got a little bit more in the center here. There's a couple spots that are still stuck. So I'll go give him another spritz after we get him trimmed, and then I'll finish it up. But it looks awesome. So there's our little caterpillar. All right, so let me set up here and we'll trim our blocks, and then we'll be ready for video 4. And in video 4, we're going to quilt there's some filler blocks to quilt, and there's also the flanges and borders. So we're going to do the borders and the flanges and then the filler blocks in the 4th video. Okay, so let me pause for a moment. I'll get it ready to do some trimming. We'll trim our blocks, and then we will be ready to finish up the little leaves before we go do the 4th video and do the borders and flanges and filler blocks. Okay, so we're going to trim our blocks here, and we're going to start with the butterfly, and the butterfly block will be cut to 4.5 by 4.5. So I've got my square pop rulers here, and I'm going to line up. You can use your little tack down line to help you get it lined up in your 4x4. So this is my 4.5 by 4.5 square, and then I like to put the bigger one on so that I have a little something more to hang on to. Got my Martelli mat here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start over here. I'm left-handed, so remember I'm starting on the right. If you're right-handed, you'll start on the left. And I'm going to go into the middle of the, kind of towards the center of the block, and go push back into the corner and go forward. Turn and do the same thing here. And boy, did it help putting a new blade on in my rotary cutter. Remind me to do that more often, guys. You're supposed to be watching me. I am not very good about changing my rotary cutter blade, and it's amazing how easy they trim if it's sharp. I also have a tendency to trim my fingers then, so I'm very careful with rotary cutters. I've been kind of dangerous with them on and off. So there's our butterfly. I actually really like the butterfly. I was a little worried about that one. I wasn't sure if I'd like it, but I think I like it. Okay, so there's that one, and then see, what was the next one we did? We did the birdhouse. So the birdhouse is going to be trimmed to 4.5 by 6.5. So we need a rectangular, let me get our little birdhouse up here. We need a rectangular orange pop ruler. So we need 4.5 by 6.5. That's the smallest one. So here's that one, and we're going to get it lined up here. Again, you can use your little, your little lines from your quilting to help you get it lined up. Get it straight in there. That looks pretty good. Okay, and then I'm going to lay the bigger one, the next size bigger, on top just to give me something to hang on to. Okay, so a second here, I got a camera under my arm, so it's a little hard for me to get this to turn. Here we go. So I'm going to turn this. I'm going to start in just a little bit, pull back into the corner, and go forward. Turned it on my Martelli mat. Yeah, the next thing I need to order is I'm going to have to order a new mat for mine. I use this so much. And I've got a little spot on my mat that's not in very good shape. So we're going to be, I think this slid just a little bit on me. There we go. And then trimmed all the way around that one. So that was a nice, easy one to do. So there's our little birdhouse. Okay. And then we got our butterfly. And then the last one was our little caterpillar guy. Isn't he cute? I just love that. That was a fun project. And I got just a little bit of work to do yet. He's a little wet, but we can still trim him. So what I'm going to do with him, they said you should tape this up. So I think I am going to tape that up so I don't catch it in my rotary cutter. Just a second here. It said that on I believe the last page. So yeah, gently brush the caterpillar fringe upward and tape it in place so that you don't catch it in, when you're working with the sewing and stuff. So let me grab a little tape here. We'll just tape it up a little bit just to kind of keep us from, I don't want to get it in the seam here. So we'll just tape him up here for safety. It's a little wet yet, so it won't stay very well, but I think we'll be able to get it trimmed so we can do that in the video here. Okay. So we're going to do, this one is the same size, 4.5 by 6.5. So we're going to, oops, I'm stuck here. I'm going to put this down. So I think I've got him kind of pushed up. The tape's not going to stick because he's a little damp yet. So I'll just push up the fringe. So I think we'll be okay. All right. So let's use those little lines to help us, those placement or the tack down lines. Because the bottom one is way down here, so we should be okay. All right, get that centered in there. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to put the next size bigger on top. I think I'm pretty straight. Right. Just be careful of your fringe. And then we'll tape it up. Once it dries, then I'll tape it up, because when we go to sew it together, we don't want to catch it in the seam. So I will do that. But we'll wait till it dries a little bit more. I got to work just a little bit on the center yet. There's a little spot that's not loose, so we'll do that. Okay. So 4.5 by 6.5. That one was trimmed. Oh, I have my friend is coming back, so you may see a cat head here pretty soon. So there's our little pinwheels with the little caterpillar. He's so cute. Let him dry. And yeah, so Gigi does not like my cutting mat here. She wants her, I know, her wool mat. Okay. And then, of course, we're going to have 3 of the little leaves, and I'm going to finish my other 2 leaves off camera. So there's my first leaf. And then, so the next time we'll do the, we're going to quilt the filler blocks. There's like 3 or 4 filler blocks. I can't remember how many. And then we're going to do the flanges and the borders. and then we'll be ready to put it together. I'm so excited. This has been a really fun pillow. So thank you so much for joining me for the third video of Life is Better in Full Bloom, and we'll get together for a fourth video to do the flanges and borders and the filler blocks. Thanks, everybody.